often have you heard people say things like, people are just too sensitive these days, or people need to have resilience and toughen up? Today, I want to talk about, is emotional intelligence and good communication something that's just nice to have, or are we missing something by not putting value in validating other people's experiences when we're speaking with them and understanding how to connect with people? I want to talk about three main points on why I believe that it is important to work on our emotional intelligence and refine our communication. Working on your communication and your emotional intelligence isn't about being soft, it's about being intentional. Some people immediately tune out when they hear words like emotional intelligence because they equate that to hypersensitivity or fragility. However, I find that people who care about their ability to listen to people, connect, hear someone share a struggle they're going through without invalidating them. I find these things as signs of maturity, intentionality. It isn't about being soft or fragile. This is about how you carry yourself. This is about how you show up in the world. And this is about how you speak in a way that builds bridges rather than burns them. Some people may say that when you have to constantly work on how you're being perceived and how you're being received by the person you're communicating to, that maybe it's up to that other person to have thick skin or take responsibility for validating themselves. We can be responsible for how we process information, but that doesn't mean that a person who is constantly communicating with you in a way that invalidates you is somebody that you may necessarily want to continue to be in communication with. If someone continues to dismiss my feelings or my experience, I may subtly withdraw from that person or not continue to connect with them in the same way. I'm talking about showing up in a way that enables you to connect with people, build into intimacy, continue to work on strong, valuable relationships. Yes, you can be that blunt person who just speaks without thinking and has your one-liners you say, dismisses people's feelings and thinks people are too sensitive, and that's fine. But how is that really going to work out for you? Are you really building bridges? Sometimes I think that people who are used to operating this way and don't want to change just think, oh, people will accept me for who I am, or they'll just move on. Well, how do you know you're not missing out on some valuable relationships because people aren't enjoying that experience of communicating with you? Your communication style affects your credibility and influence. Being able to hear someone, validate them, and maintain your own boundaries is a sign of leadership and maturity. When you're continuously brushing people off, using one liners, dismissing feelings, you start to lose credibility and people start to tune you out. People feel disconnection. Even if someone doesn't work on this themselves and they don't have the language for it, they feel the disconnection and the discomfort in interacting with you, and they may start to pull away. If someone comes to you with an issue they're dealing with and you just brush it off and say, oh, that's not that big of a deal, other people have bigger problems than that. That person may not come to you anymore to talk to you about things that are going on in their life. And you may start to wonder why you don't have any of these connections with people where you really feel like you have intimate connections. And you need to reevaluate the way you respond when people are talking to you about things. When we are not intentional with how we communicate, we lose access to the people we care about, deeper feelings, thoughts, and their trust. Let's talk about people who do have the language and do have a very high awareness for emotional intelligence and good communication style. They will see your lack of intentionality in the words that you use and the way that you communicate with people as insecurity. They notice that you lack refinement. They interpret your behavior as a lack of self awareness or immaturity. And if this person that you're communicating with is not well intentioned and they do not really care for you or have your best intention in mind, they may use your lack of emotional intelligence and your lack of intentionality in the way you communicate as a window into your weaknesses. Your communication style is letting intelligent people know exactly where you're insecure and where you lack confidence, and that can be used against you. I was watching an interview with Mel Robbins and Jefferson Fisher, and a subject came up about how to respond when you are late and someone calls you out on being late, and that instead of being defensive and explaining your tardiness and everything you went through and feeling entitled about your issues or what's going on with you, you could think of the other person and just simply say, I apologize that my tardiness was an inconvenience. Thank you for your patience. And not even explain why you're late. Because when you're explaining why you're late, you're just taking away more time from that other person. So rather than doing that, just to consider the person in front of you and thank them for their patience and apologize because you were late and you inconvenienced them, that is the best way to handle that situation. I thought to myself, wow, I never thought about how something so small could be so impactful, but it makes sense. And then I had a real life example just recently for my birthday party. So I had a small gathering, it was less than 12 people. And everyone was bringing a dish, and we had a menu, and people were well aware of the menu. Well, the person who was bringing a certain dish was 2 hours late. And we were all waiting on that dish. And finally, we just said, we're not going to wait anymore. And when it gets here, if we're going to do round two of eating, maybe we'll have the pleasure of being able to add that dish. Well, the person who brought that dish finally showed up, and someone jokingly said, oh, finally, we get to have the and that person who was late went into this long, aggressive rant about how they had to travel a far way and they had a 2 hour drive. And they didn't even apologize for the inconvenience they caused other people or anything. And I noticed how it immediately disconnected this person from the rest of the guests at my party. And a lot of the people at the party were meeting each other for the first time. So no one really knew this person except for me. And I believe this person is an amazing person. People would like this person. But because of the way they responded to being late, it was an immediate turnoff to a lot of people at the party. Even if making a mistake, owning up to it, taking responsibility, and considering the other person could have changed this guest's credibility and influence so much. Are we being too sensitive by calling out some of these poor behaviors? I don't think so. But I do agree. We all have the responsibility to take care of ourselves and validate ourselves. So, a consequence of not working on emotional intelligence in your communication is you lose connection with people. People see right through you, they see your insecurities. You're going to lose that credibility, and you're going to lose intimacy, maybe with people who you want to have intimate relationships with. So, no, you don't have to grow. You don't have to learn how to communicate better. But if you want to be understood, respected, and connected to people, you might want to think about how your words are landing. It's not just about being polite, it's about saying, I see you and I respect you. I respect your time. And that's emotional maturity. If it triggers you to think about things like this, and to work on improving your emotional maturity. And the easiest thing for you to do is say, everyone else is losing resilience or being too sensitive. You might want to think about the way you want to be received and the type of relationships you want to have. Let me know in the comments if you've ever felt disconnected by the way someone responded to you, or if you've ever had to catch yourself and correct it. And shout out to Jefferson Fisher and Mel Robbins. If you're trying to level up how you communicate, go listen to them. Seriously. See you next time. Bye.